all, and welcome to this series of special Sankofa flight chartered by the Office of the UN Special Envoy for the Great Lakes region. As announced before, this special series, broadcasted in parallel with your usual podcast episode, will last the whole month of March to honor women from different countries who talk about their battles. And to open this series, the captain is a female captain, so you are in very good hands. Enjoy your flight.
African History Daily by my daddy.
Morning, Madame Ba. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello listeners, my name is Nene Ba. I'm the Senior Gender Advisor to the Office of the Special Envoy for the Great Lakes region.
Why did you want this special series of episodes on the Great Lakes?
The Special Envoy asked us to explore innovative communication approaches to create a platform that would allow women in the Great Lakes region to share their perspective on women issues, peace and security as part of the celebration of the Women's International Day. After all, the Women's Day aims to take stock of the achievements, the challenges registered, but also to bring the voice of women to the decision makers as well as to other segments of society. For a podcast fan, and in particular as a fan of my African Clichés channel, which has been a great advocate for the promotion of gender issues through rich and enlightening episodes on gender issues, it was considered useful to draw on the celebration of the International Women's Day to give greater voice to women and young people, especially from civil society and fora in the region who are often not heard in the mainstream media. This is an excellent opportunity, and we hope that it will offer a new platform for listening to experience and promoting strong advocacy for effective participation of women in regional political and security mechanisms, as well as in the ongoing confidence-building efforts and regional economic integration. On this point, the Special Envoy is very happy to see the important work being undertaken under the regional forum of the private sector, but also, as importantly, the establishment of a new platform for women in the private sector for the Great Lakes region. The idea of this podcast is to broadcast interviews with women from the 12 countries at various levels, and we invite you to listen to them and appreciate their journey for not only women's rights, but for humans' rights in general.
What is the role of the Office of a Special Envoy?
You probably know that in February 2013, 11 countries signed the Framework Agreement for Peace, Security and Cooperation for the DRC and the region in a renewed effort to end conflict in the Eastern DRC, which affects, I would say, the stability and development of the Great Lakes region of Africa. The Framework Agreement includes a series of national, regional and international commitments. The mandate of the Office of the Special Envoy includes good office to strengthen relations between the signatories of the Framework Agreement to encourage confidence building to revitalize the implementation of existing agreements. It also, importantly, integrates gender approach in all its activities in ensuring that member states comply with the minimum quota of 30% for women meaningful participation, but most significantly in ensuring gender mainstreaming in all activities and in supporting efforts to address gender-based violence, which remains of concern in the region. As co-guarantor of the agreement, the office facilitates and takes an active advocacy role with women leaders of FemWise, AU, ICGLR, and civil society organizations, COCAFEM, FFC, to name few of them, to ensure that member states meet the commitments made under Resolution 1325, as well as other important regional decisions, including in relation to the Kampala Declaration on Gender-Based Violence, and which remain a major concern, as I said earlier, in the region.
You mentioned during our discussion that this year, 2020, is a special one. Please tell us why.
It marks the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Programme of Action, which, as you very well know, is considered as the roadmap for women's and girls' empowerment. 2020 is also an important year in promoting gender equality around the world. with the international community assessing the progress made on women's rights since the adoption of the Beijing Programme of Action. It also marks the 20th anniversary of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, and of course the 5th anniversary of the Sustainable Development Goals. The normative frameworks have been helpful throughout, but we must now go beyond the texts and translate the text into facts, and above all, advance the narrative in terms of achieving a quota of 50% in all institutions or spheres of political, social, and economic life. I still struggle to understand where the challenges are in addressing the quota.
There have been many advances, as you said, but what remains there to do? What are the prospects?
Countries of the Great Lakes region can be proud of the steps taken in terms of gender equality at the level of parliaments, with a rate of 27% compared to the global average of 24%. Some countries are, I would say, the pride of the region and, in a way, of all Africa, if not the world. This is, for example, Rwanda with a record of 60%. Tanzania 40%, Burundi 36%, Uganda 35%, and Angola 30%.
Do you have a last word for the listeners to launch this series of special episodes?
In general, progress has been made in improving the legal framework with the updating of gender-sensitive national legislation and the institutionalization of the 30% rate of women as a constitutional minimum. However, the challenges remain very important for us to address. These include the women's economic empowerment, gender-sensitive budgeting in development programs and policies, lack of resources to effectively implement the regional action plan. The list is extensive, but that should not deter us from addressing these challenges, both individually and collectively. At this point, I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate the advocacy efforts of women leaders, including Mrs. Binta Job, the AU Special Envoy for Women, Peace and Security, the co-chair of FemWise, Their Excellency Mrs. Samba Panza, former President of the Central African Republic, Dr. Speciosa Wandira, former Vice President of Uganda, Mrs. Liberata Mulamula, former Secretary General of the ICGLR, Dr. Amina Mohammed, Deputy Secretary General of the UN, and other women leaders of the region. Their contributions have been significant, and we have a lot to thank them on this occasion. The theme of this year, I Am Generation Equality Realizing Women's Rights, is significant. So we ask women in the Great Lakes region to take advantage of this platform to emerge from men's shadow. To the women who are in leadership positions in the region and who listen to this podcast, we appeal to them to continue to inspire and guide the younger generation. On behalf of the Special Envoy for the Great Lakes region and his entire team, I wish you a happy Women's International Day. And together, let us pursue our joint objective for women's and girls' rights in the Great Lakes region.
My African cliché of the day is a terrible feeling, the one you feel when you face injustice. Imagine how women feel when they are victims of sexual violence of all kinds in the Great Lakes region. These terrible injustices, which are mostly never punished, both in war and peacetime. I can't think of a better word than those of Alfred de Vigny, excellent French poet who translated so many of Shakespeare's work. He said, and I quote, "After having studied the condition of women in all times and in all countries, I came to the conclusion that instead of saying hello to them, we should ask them for forgiveness." End of quote. Is there a better way to say sorry than to listen and share this series on the feminist struggles in the Great Lakes region? Thank you, and see you on board tomorrow.